This place has welcomed travelers for generations, where journeys of hope began, where survivors found sanctuary, live stories of courage in the darkest times, of ordinary people choosing to be extraordinary. This is Hear My Story.
I'm Kayla Berenson. This episode of Hear My Story celebrates a Cincinnati boy whose life was cut too short and the beautiful way his parents are keeping his memory alive. John and Michelle Otten were honored with the Anneliese and Matt Yosafat Award for Love at the 2025 Upstander Awards. And I am honored to be joined by John today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Kayla. Appreciate being here.
So let's start off with the basics. Tell us about yourself, your family. Has Cincinnati always been home?
Yeah, Cincinnati has mostly been home, right? I grew up here on the west side, went to school in Ohio, but then moved away for briefly after college. And when I moved back, it was really because I met my wife in those 2 years I was living away. She lived here in Cincinnati, and I wanted to come back home and marry her and start my life together. So
you just mentioned your wife, Michelle. How did you meet? Tell us about her.
Yeah, so we met at a karaoke bar with some friends, and I joke, I say I heard her voice and I wanted to hear it every day of my life. So I knew that she was someone special, and although I lived a little bit away in Indianapolis, we were able to have that long distance relationship until I got my wits about me and moved back here.
And we're glad that you did.
Yes.
So tell us about Braden, his birth, what life was like then.
Yeah, so Braden was born on March 9th, 2009. And he was born and he appeared to be just a perfectly healthy baby boy. And within hours of his birth, though, we learned about a congenital heart defect that he had. We did not know about this before. And it created quite a lot of chaos because that day and the hours were really spent saving his life. Thankfully, the great teams at Christ Hospital and Children's were able to save his life. But then that started a journey for us that really never ended. It was about constant care. Sure, there was anxiety, but we made sure that throughout his life that he didn't feel that anxiety, and he was courageous and brave and all the things that kids should be.
Absolutely. And we'll circle back to him in just a second, but I know you added a daughter to your household, Aubrey. So what was it like watching the two of them together?
Peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Aubrey's a little bit younger, and she was born in 2011. And just as much as, Braden might have been the yin, she was the yang. And very, very energetic and full of spirit. And she's a teenager now, so that spirit's even more full now. But she is just a joy, and she always has been. She lights up a room, and they were great friends, and it was just incredible to see them together.
So when did things start becoming more serious in terms of Braden's health?
Yeah, so we knew Braden was born with this congenital heart defect, and throughout all of his life, we knew that this was going to be a condition that he was going to have to manage. And we believed that he was going to be able to manage this into adulthood. And there are children and adults with the same condition who are in their 40s and I believe even in their 50s. It just needs to be managed. In May of 22, Braden went in for a routine procedure, which he had dozens of times before that. But as any routine, procedure, there are always risk. And Braden, one of those risks came true, and Braden ended up needing a heart transplant. And that's when things got really serious. And during those 86 days when Braden was waiting for a heart, we had incredible support from our community, from our family, from our friends, from neighbors and strangers. And the love that we had given to us was more than our cups could handle, and we were completely full. Sadly, Braden passed away. And our cups were still full. So, yeah, that's why we started this foundation.
Yeah. So you talk about the community around you and how supportive they all were through all of this. What kind of things were the most helpful in that time to Braden?
I think Braden, there was so many different things. Braden wanted to have his friends, support him. He wanted to have his family there support him. He wanted his community and his school to support him, and all that was incredible. We made shirts that said "Brave like Braden." He had cards. But one of the things that really stood out was this reunion that he had with his own dog. And Cincinnati Children's is lucky enough to have one of 2 centers in the entire country at that time where a child who's stuck at the hospital like Braden was has a chance to get reunited with his own dog or pet in a safe and fun environment. So this center is technically outside the hospital, but on the hospital grounds. And Braden had the opportunity to get reunited with his dog, Dugan. And if you're a pet lover and you've owned a pet of any kind, you know how important your pets are. They don't talk back to you. They don't share advice with you. They just love on you. And that's what he needed. He needed that most of all. And so it was that love that he had between his dog Dugan and him that was unmistakable and incredible to see.
After going through that, to take such a tragedy and turn it into something so wonderful is incredibly inspiring. So I would love for you to tell the story of how you built this entire organization dedicated to bringing joy to kids like Braden who need it. And, obviously this is still very raw and very fresh. So how do you bring that energy to that even as you're still grieving the loss of Braden?
Yeah, and I'll always grieve that, right? It never is going to go away. Yeah. But there was a realization months later when I realized that there were only 2 children's hospitals that had these centers in the United States. And there's nearly 200 children's hospitals in the United States. So it's only 1% of children's hospitals that have this ability to reunite a child in and I repeat this, safe and fun environment. We wanted this to be magical for the child. And so this foundation was built to create joy and uninhibited joy. And we do that in really 3 different ways. But the pet program, the Brave Pets program, is one of the main pillars of this foundation. And in a little over 2 years, we've actually taken this foundation across the country, and we do these different programs. But in 2 years, we've been able to onboard 2 different hospitals. That one is in New Orleans and the other one is in Indianapolis. And these 2 hospitals are joining us to be part of the Brave Pet program, which is where we will pull up a trailer. And it is an 8x20 trailer that is built out to the nines inside. It feels like you're walking in a Disney World experience. There's even a thing called a magic window. And that is this superimposed experience where people believe they're looking at their own bedroom, their own favorite park, their favorite place to go. And they're no longer in the hospital. They're there, they're listening to their favorite music. But the thing that really steals the show is their dog, their cat, whatever the animal is, the pet. They're there wagging their tail, getting greeted, getting loved on. For that 1 hour, that kid gets to be a kid just with their dog, their cat. And there's no other experience like it. So as we grow, we want to bring on more hospitals to do these programs. But we've been so blessed with the opportunities we've had and the support we've been given and trust by the community, by others. It's really incredible.
So the Brave Like Me Foundation exists to serve children with complex medical conditions. I know you talked about this pet program. Can you tell me about the other ways that you connect with and serve these families?
Absolutely. So we really try to connect with families and their kids through supporting their mind and their body and their spirit. And their spirit is that spirit animal, that pet program. But the other two are just as important. Kids need to feel like they're courageous and they're enough and they have the tools necessary to be incredible. Every child is born with innate abilities that make them special. And they just have to find it. So our book program, which is called Braden's Books, has expanded to 20 different locations around the United States, coast to coast. And what this is a curated collection of 9 books that are delivered to mostly Ronald McDonald houses, some children's hospitals, and they're given to kids to teach them about empathy and courage and friendship and teamwork and all the things that we know are important, but taught in a way that they can understand it. And so that it's more than just a colorful book. It's really about teaching things that are important to them. And we also want to make sure that their bodies feel that courageous spirit. We don't leap mountains in a single leap. We take little steps. And there's a lot of children that we help who have physical limitations or emotional or mental limitations. But if they believe that they're enough, all of a sudden, a lot of those, they don't go away, but we adapt. And so we've been able to do indoor rock climbing, indoor skydiving, zip lines, high ropes courses. We do things like go to the Reds games, go to different sporting events, and just have fun events like at arcades. And the reason why we do those things is because those kids need to understand they can do those things. Maybe with some help from a friend, which teaches empathy. Maybe help from assisted devices, which creates, this idea of like we can be innovative and thoughtful and smart about how we address the world. But in the end, we want them to bring their best friend. And the reason why we don't want to have just kids with complex medical conditions like just by themselves is because the world doesn't work like that. The world is all together, all of us. And we want their best friend and them to see the good and the bad, the struggles, because life is not guaranteed to be free of struggles. But if we have friends, we're braver, we're stronger, and we can get through life.
Amazing. Really integrates with the work that we do here too at the center with creating upstanders at a younger age. And I love that Brayden's message is reaching all these children and that they are getting these experiences. So I can hear it in your voice. This is your passion. This is your life's work. This is now your, as well as your wife's life's work. So it's just a tremendous testament to your devotion to Braden and just other kids across the country. So I know you've talked about expanding to different hospitals. How else has the organization grown? What's on the horizon?
Well, so, about a year ago was where I became the first employee, right? So this became not just a volunteer-led organization, but, I was the first employee, took that leap. And recently we've been hiring some more people as well. We've been hiring some part-time people in these other cities that we're expanding to. What I'm most excited about is not just the people we get to bring in that believe in the same things that we believe in, who are now part of our staff and our family, but the volunteers. This was and always will be an organization that was built on compassion and standing up for what people believe in. We know There's challenges in this world. And it was an honor to be an Upstander, even nominated. Being an Upstander is not about standing up when things are easy. It's taking a step today, a step tomorrow, and our volunteers, they've taken so many steps. And this organization can't do what we've done without the incredible people we have.
So you and Michelle were given the Anneliese and Matt Yosafat Award for Love. So for our listeners, if you're not familiar, they both survived the Holocaust as children, hiding, taking on false identities, and doing whatever it took to keep going. They made a home in Cincinnati after the war and built a life centered on love. So what has it been like for you to have that legacy of love celebrated in your family?
Love fills our cup, right? I mean, love is like, you can't be courageous without love, and you can't love without courage. You can't find purpose in your life without love, right? You can't find the ones that really are meant to be in your life without love, right? And love is what we had for Braden, right? It's what we have for Aubrey. It's what we have for each other. It's what we have for this community, for all the supporters. And it's quite an honor to have the award for love, right? It's amazing. It's very humbling too, because the other individuals that were there, we're all Upstanders, and I cannot believe the incredible work that this organization does, your organization does for this city, and recognizing the incredible people that are making a difference in this world. We need it.
Well, I think also your love, not only for Braden, echoes through what you do, but it's really love for these families who are going through the same or similar experiences as well. It's such an extension of love. We talked about the Upstander Gala, but can you tell me a little bit more about what that was like for you to be part of all of that?
Yeah. I mean, visually and everything else, it was so incredible, a beautiful event. But it was such a surprise. I really didn't believe we would be honored the way we were, and I was completely awestruck. I don't get awestruck very often, but again, it was very humbling. Thankful, very, very thankful.
You brought this up a little bit earlier, but what would you say, what is your message to others who may be struggling with their own challenges to keep digging deep and, lead on their own strengths and be Upstanders, and teach those lessons as well?
So early on, we talked, and we still use this analogy, but, small, brave steps. And they don't have to happen every day. We don't have to wake up every single day and think that today's the day I'm going to take another step. Like, maybe it is. Maybe today you take 5 steps. Maybe tomorrow it's one of those days you need a break and you don't take any steps, but take a step. Make sure that the steps you take have purpose and that you're moving towards something. The smallest step is still a step. And eventually, we take steps. We help others take steps. We all reach the top of the mountain. And we all may reach it at different times. We will. But we'll still get there. And we just got to do it together.
My final question, what do you think Braden would want to say to the children that are in his position that are going through all of this right now?
You got this.
John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hear My Story is a production of the Nancy and David Wolf Holocaust and Humanity Center. The center's mission is to ensure that the lessons of the Holocaust inspire action today. This is part of the Cynthia and Harold Gutman Family Center for Storytelling. Thanks to Margaret and Michael Valentine for their ongoing support of this series. Managing producer is Ann Thompson, technical producer is Robert Mills, and technical director is Josh Emerson. Select music is by Kik Lee. This is recorded at the Nancy and David Wolf Holocaust and Humanities Center. Visit us in person at Historic Union Terminal in Cincinnati, Ohio, or online anytime at holocaustandhumanity.org.